Continuation on this President's Holiday Day is the topic of the day, as Bitcoin and Ethereum actually shown a little bit of strength. In fact, Ethereum a little bit more, as we'll get into. So I suspect that right now would be a good time to welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. We can just get right into this one. Probably going to be on the short and sweet side as we look at Bitcoin daily statistics first. Over here on CME, which yes, indeed does trade. I always get this question on the holiday days. Does CME trade? Yeah, it typically does. Anyways, Monday is actually, weirdly enough, for CME, the most likely to close positively throughout its history, closing 60.42% positively with an average return of 2.37, or in the case that it does close negatively, which is about a 40% probability there, would be 2.25%. So looking at it right now, there's actually a pretty obvious setup, but let's just see what those numbers would play out to be first, and then we'll talk about the setup at hand. And about 240 to the upside would put Bitcoin somewhere around 53,700, let's say, just below there to be fair. And 2.25% to the downside would put Bitcoin closer to about 51,200. So likely the range for today. I suspect that we're not going to see any major moves from Bitcoin, but perhaps Ethereum, as we'll get into a little bit later. Anyways, more on the topic for Bitcoin as I pull up my notes over here. I do want to get into right here the daily bands, and the daily bands tell the story quite obvious, and then we'll talk about a little bit of a potential setup. So first things first, Bitcoin right below the 78.6 level right here at 53,000 bucks. That is to say that if Bitcoin does close above there, which is also simultaneously, or if it were to simultaneously close above Friday's high, so 53,000 bucks basically on CME, which does have a premium over spot price action by about 200, 300 bucks right now. Then we would very likely be looking for a continuation to start this week, probably towards 55,000 bucks. It would be rather significant. By the same token, there's a very obvious potential short-term reversal setup here for Bitcoin. Just closing below Friday's low would do it for me. In this case, we'd have, what do you want to call it? 3 crows, whatever the fuck you want to call those things. I don't think it matters all that much, but more importantly, if you do close below that, you're going to start to ignite a chain of other events that we'll get into in a second here, and very likely play to move back down somewhere closer to 50,000 bucks even. Why is that? Because if we go to this chart, we can see, well, we can see it loading, but we can see on the daily right here for Bitcoin, there is going to be bearish divergence building on pretty much all of the higher timeframes now, daily, 2-day. Daily, and then 2-day time frame, and then 3-day time frame, and even the 5-day time frame, I do believe as well, are all going to be building bearish divergence. But the thing is, it's not actionable just yet. You can only compare local high to local high when it comes to bearish divergence, or any divergence for that matter. If you're looking at bullish divergence, it's going to be local low to local low, but I digress. Anyways, in this case, if that were to happen, it'd confirm a local high, thus confirming bearish divergence, very likely at least a move back down somewhere around 50,000 bucks, maybe a little bit below there, an attempt for a bounce after that. But until you do see that closure below Friday's low, again, 51,820, it's not there just yet, and upside still, technically speaking, the more likely thing to be happening, but realistically, we don't see any significant upside as long as Bitcoin's below 53,000 bucks. So that's kind of the range for today, basically 51.8 to 53, as far as actually changing, the current structure. Anyways, moving on now. As I said, this one's going to be pretty short video. We can look at Ethereum, and let me just pull up Ethereum statistics over here. Ethereum, rather interesting here too. Ethereum looks a little more strong in the short term. It actually just closed in a pretty strong weekly. In fact, let's just look at it. Let's observe the weekly dildo. The weekly dildo. Yes, there it is in front of our very faces, closing above basically the yearly highs already. That is a strong signal of continuation. Doesn't mean that there can't be pullbacks. Of course there can, but look, anything above 2750 is long-term bullish and looking for continuation. And this is kind of that stair-stepping of an uptrend, that really began, I guess, since October for Ethereum on this first macro higher low. So in this case, Ethereum looks like it's going to join the party finally, I think is what a lot of people are thinking. I think that we're going to see the same sort of relationship that we've seen in past cycles play out here yet again, where you see Bitcoin go first. It is a Bitcoin-led market, especially with Bitcoin getting, most of the love for, on the institutional side, like ETFs and whatnot. And then Ethereum gets to follow, kind of similar like you saw in 2017 when Bitcoin got CME futures, right? CME futures lifted Bitcoin up from, it's announced somewhere around 5,000, 6,000 bucks to 20,000 bucks, and then Ethereum followed after that, and then you got all the shit coins following in lockstep after that as well. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right here. So, putting or comparing apples to apples, not necessarily that you should do that. Ethereum still well below the March/April bull trap of 2022. Bitcoin now obviously very well above that region. So does Ethereum play catch up to somewhere akin to that region over the next month here, or a month to 2 months? I don't think it's that crazy to say, honestly. So still looking at 32 to 3,500 bucks. More long term, let's say. Anyways, going back down here to the daily, let's go look at the range statistics. Looking at Monday, we do see that Monday is more or less kind of a wash. 54.17% of all Mondays in Ethereum's history have closed positively, so more or less a coin toss, I suppose. What is interesting is that it actually has the highest negative return, and also a pretty decent positive return. So we can look at the range from that perspective. 2.64 to the upside versus 2.85 to the downside. Let's see what that would look like. 264 to the upside would be Ethereum just under 3,000, 29.59. And about 285 to the downside would look like what would put Ethereum back down around 2,800. Based off the way that the weekly closed, I think upside is more likely, but of course we can go over here and look at that from a more probabilistic standpoint, which I will put on for the daily bands. And you can see that Ethereum, similar to what Bitcoin was doing out of the October base, Ethereum is now starting to follow this, where it is trending above the blue 50% of historic returns range highs and kind of playing between that and the 61.8 level here. So today, we can see that the 50% level has actually stepped up quite a fair bit to 2,900. Maybe not quite a bit, but 2,900, which Ethereum has tested pretty much as the high of the day, like literally the high of the day thus far. So if you do see Ethereum follow through, we would be expecting the 61.8 level as the next sort of obvious area of interest at literally just under 3,000. Yeah, 29.94 to be exact. Ethereum poised for more. Does it happen today? Does it happen tomorrow? I don't know, but it does look like this week we see Ethereum play some catch up. And then, of course, if you start to see closures above 3,000, that's when I'd really look for Ethereum to do an explosive Bitcoin type move. And we can start to talk about, 3,200 region. But for right now, one thing before the next, of course, there always needs to be some sort of an invalidation on the other side, as there will, it's all a game of probabilities. But in this case, if you see Ethereum come back down below yesterday's low, Sunday's low, which is like 27.65, which was essentially a retest of the weekly. I'd be looking, I guess, for a move back down somewhere around the median on the HPDR bands, which 26.85 region, but I think that's a lot less likely right here. Upside more likely. Volatility expansion is going to favor upside continuation, basically. I'm curious if we have the same sort of divergence building on Ethereum from this angle. Let's just double check. Daily time, whoops, wrong damn button. Daily time frame, yeah, at some point you will. 2-day time frame, again, at some point it will, but needs to confirm a local high. We don't have local highs here, especially as long as Ethereum's above 2750. So upwards and onwards, as long as that condition is met with those areas of interest in mind. Volatility is really starting to expand here on the 2-day time frame for the first time since October, and this one looks a little bit more interesting here as well, to be fair. So yeah, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off. Like I said, short and sweet on this one, as it is a holiday, and I suspect that, I don't know, do people celebrate on President's Day? Everyone gets together and has a nice dinner, with your extended family or something like that. Probably not. You talk about your favorite president. Who's your favorite president? My favorite president is, I shouldn't say it, man. Shouldn't say it. I know who everyone else's favorite president is. Yeah, I know who else's favorite president is. It starts with a D and ends with a T. Or actually, no, it doesn't end with a T. It starts with a D and ends with a P. You know who it is. Elsa spends her nights watching. The what? Elsa wants everyone to know that Trump has sneakers and they're sold out. They're all gold as well. Looks really, really nice. All right, cool. That's going to do it for today. As always, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care. Much love. Fuck, I forgot to do it again. Please may remember to like and herp and derp and whatever the fuck. Hey, have a good day. Take care. Much love. See you soon.